December 8th, 2017.
A date which will live in infamy.
Because the full Hello Neighbor game finally came out, and we can unwrap all the answers we've been craving for so long. Answers to questions like, if the neighbor is so crazy, then how does he maintain such attractive and trimmed facial hair? Mr. Neighborman, by the way, with the full release, it's clear this mustachioed antagonist isn't our father. Keyword isn't. Phew! But still, who is he? And why has he constructed a house that only a crazy McCrazyface would construct? A handsome mug with a stash to decorate it can only get you so far before people start asking questions, you argyle-wearing, flamboyant, stretch-doing kidnapper! The kidnapping is probably the main issue, really. Also, driving skills not really on point. Who hits a pizza truck? The kind of man our neighbor clearly is, that's who. But that's the question, isn't it? Who is our neighbor exactly? His motives and personality are the question mark that binds this entire chaos of evidence spanning normal waking reality and lucid dreams. Not to mention dreams within dreams, a depth to the psyche which few games dare touch. But what does it all mean? Who is this gloved man of many nightmares? And what is he hiding from the world? From us. Since those early alphas so long ago, we've called him a monster, a kidnapper, the devil. Finally, with the full release, we can put this man and his creepy house under a very flattering spotlight, but not too flattering. I mean, it's hard not to admire his stranger danger never looked so appealing. I mean, that's a butt! Stop! It's time for the shtick, people! So round up your mannequin collection, hang some weird pictures on your walls, and prepare yourself for the story of tragedy, guilt, and the looming spooky darkness they leave behind. This is the story of a house that reflects the mind who built it. The story of Hello Neighbor. The story you never knew. Oh no, you nimble, cold-faced man, to unravel your psyche and what led to your insanity. Let's rewind to the beginning, to Act 1. In the first cutscene, we are not the grown man we've come to know in the betas and alphas. We're a child playing with a ball, and when we kick our ball and follow it, we get another cutscene, the infamous neighbor dragging someone who was probably a kid into the basement with an accompanied scream. Not to mention, if you look right around this area, you'll see simming children's posters. Not simming children! I think we can all assume they're supposed to say missing. And we see a missing boy and a missing girl highlighted on these posters. Is this screaming, unseen child one of them? Who knows, but it's time to investigate. Looking around the house, we see the same old from previous builds. Eyeball paintings, apple paintings, paintings of a husband, wife, and child. All great decorations. They add a little artistic pizzazz. But back to the story. What really moves the plot forward are I guess you'd call them dream sequences, that happen at random times between when the neighbor captures you and when you wake up across the street. The first one is telling. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Walking down a long hallway, if you look to the right, you'll see the neighbor letting someone into a car, running around to the driver's side and then driving off, only to get involved in an accident with a pizza truck where his passenger is now either dead or gravely injured. Sirens, perhaps an ambulance, can be heard approaching in the distance. And look! A high heel! Judging by this feminine footwear and the chivalrous action of letting someone in, then getting in the car himself, I think we can assume our man of mystery has lost or will lose his wife.
I don't wanna be alive. I don't wanna be alive.
Poor guy. This is the first tragedy that befalls our neighbor. An accident which may have been his fault. These cars both ended up on the opposite side of the road from us, or more importantly, on the same side of the road as each other, so it's likely somebody was driving on the wrong side. And judging by the same red car parked on the fence during Act 1, it's not crazy to assume the neighbor's a bad driver. So our neighbor played his part in his wife's death. And even if he didn't, even if it wasn't his fault, our villain will lose his wife. Is he even a villain at all? The next dream sequence encounter with him is more creepy and strange than tragic. On the wall above us is a silhouette of the neighbor digging a hole for something, or someone. Probably both, actually. We'll get to that. The silhouette finishes digging, leaves, and doesn't come back. So we walk through the door to find a giant neighbor searching the room for something. Could it be what he wants to bury? I think it is. Act 2 leads me to believe this, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. These dreams are very insightful, but oh so mysterious. But dead wife and hole digging aside, let's talk about the oh so tantalizing basement. I mean, it would be tantalizing if it wasn't weird and creepy. When we get the red key, we're able to make our way down the stairs to the place where, as far as I can tell, a child is being held against their will. I mean, we can all agree on that at this point, right? Now, in my previous Hello Neighbor videos, I argued for this to be a little girl by the scream, but truth be told, child screams can be quite androgynous. Not that I would know. But I think this is a little boy, a missing boy, who killed someone close to him. And yet a tragedy of this magnitude is only one of the reasons tearing our neighbor's mind apart. These gory details are what our child protagonist aims to investigate, and that curiosity has gotten him into the basement, where there is no child to be found? There's only a crude simulation of reality, as though trying to keep a prisoner feeling like they aren't in prison. And judging by the food items around here, there's little doubt someone has been living down here. A child that has escaped, something our good protagonist surely wants to do as well. Except, after being chased down a long corridor, oh no! Don't come any closer! I have a box! I'm gonna box you! Neighbor man, don't you dare, neighbor man! You'll be sorry! And we're trapped here until we escape. Which, to be fair, is usually how it works. But yeah, the room we're trapped in is locked. So how does one escape from a locked room? With help, of course. While meandering around in our little room of joy, we hear a crash followed by the sound of a door unlocking. And sure enough, we're free. But hold on. Who unlocked the door? Surely our neighbor who put us down here in the first place isn't just gonna let us go. Thankfully, we have a restart option. This time, if we look through the keyhole, maybe we can glimpse who... Is that? Yes. The simming boy. One and the same! He was stuffed in the basement and then put in a weird, unconvincing reality simulator to make him feel better about it. It didn't work, so he escaped. And thanks to his ingenuity, we're allowed to escape too. But what does this have to do with the missing boy being a murderer? And more importantly, why would that make the neighbor become the crazy man he is? Well, since we can safely assume this is the same kid who our neighbor locked in the basement at the beginning of Act 1, we can begin making connections with the insights of Act 2. So, what are we waiting for? We make our way out of this basement prison only to be greeted by a new neighbor house. Jiminy Cricket, good lord man. How long you been at work up here, huh? Regardless, our neighbor has gone even more off the deep end than before. He's now added some, improvements to the house. Totally safe improvements. Oh, and a wall that would put Fenway's green monster to shame around the perimeter of the property. Good to know our crazy handyman realizes the importance of blowing off steam with the holistic hobby of carpentry. Step aside, Jesus. But yeah, we wind through and around this haunting house, deciphering the methods to our neighbor's madness. Until somewhere along the way, we get even more dream sequences. Very telling ones, I might add. The first dream sequence is set in a sort of theme park, the main attraction being a roller coaster operated by none other than the missing boy who helped us in the basement earlier. Except now he's red, the color of... Well, he's under a red light, but could be symbolic. Allow me to explain. Hopping on the coaster, we're first taken through a warmly lit kitchen filled with the sound of a family laughing. A family of 4. These are happy times, until the next room begins. It's the same place, but everything has been flipped upside down. Lights turned off, and we hear only the sound of a man crying. It's as if our neighbor's life between that scene and this has literally been turned upside down. These rooms aren't just sections of a dream, they're states of mind. And something took a family from happy togetherness to lonely despair. Continuing onward, the roller coaster crosses another threshold, this time having 2 little pushy hands up front. The suspenseful cart wheels forward until the missing girl. Oh no, we're gonna push her! Oh! Recall the missing boy was the operator of this dream roller coaster, which means these hands, this path we were taken on, was his. First, there was a happy family, then something changed all that. Then, another horror, a brother killing his sister. This roller coaster is a timeline, but Why did we go down it? How did these sad, sad dominoes fall in the way they did? We've already gotten a whopping hammer of a hint from the car crash in Act 1. The neighbor's wife was gravely injured, with an ambulance making its way to the scene, presumably. It's hard to know for sure if she was killed outright until this next dream sequence, the hospital. A heart monitor beeps next to a bed while the neighbor waits anxiously in the waiting room. Then the monitor flatlines. There's no indication who this is who passed away, but when you look at all the evidence, the answer is clearly the wife. Judging by the roller coaster dream and the car accident, the most likely havers of death in this game are both the wife and daughter. So it had to have been one of them that flatlined here in the hospital. Here's the thing though, before Act 1 even began, there are missing posters hanging around the neighborhood for a boy, yes, but also a little girl. If the neighbor's daughter was the one who died in the hospital, then why would she be on a missing poster? When you die in a hospital, public records get updated pretty quick. No, this girl died outside of the public eye. The wife was taken to the hospital after her very public crash and passed away from her injuries soon after. But the girl was killed at the hands of her brother, at the hands of the only family member our neighbor has left. Recall that the house in Act 1 was already starting to look a little funky. The neighbor has already started to lose his mind because at this point his wife is already dead. Case in point, the house is messy and has its share of, questionable add-ons. For instance, this ladder in the back that leads to a janky platform on the roof. A perfect place for children playing to end in tragedy. And notice how it's been blocked off, as though something happened up there that must never happen again. A brother killing his sister. Or the neighbor didn't want anyone entering through the hole in the roof. But regardless, if it had to happen anywhere in this house, this would be the place where someone got pushed off and died. There's a doll at the bottom to represent the daughter, and also a guitar for the brother, as seen by the puzzle in his room I never mentioned. We also see this same doll in the basement and lying around the car crash dream sequence. Is the doll in the places it is by accident? Perhaps. What we do know is there's a casket buried in the backyard, and within that casket is a key to a little girl's dollhouse. The key in this sense is more of a symbolic representation of the daughter rather than the daughter herself, as Tiny Build has chosen not to provide corpses to represent the deceased, as also shown by the empty hospital bed even though someone was definitely in it. And so with his wife and daughter dead and the daughter buried in the backyard, what better way for a loving father to protect his only remaining child than to hide him away so the world will never call him a murderer? And what better way to hide the whole ordeal than to hang missing posters of his children all over the neighborhood? People will notice if his children aren't around, but they won't get suspicious if it appears he's looking for them. And certainly no one will ask a grieving father if the accident that killed his wife is his fault. Our neighbor is putting on a facade, but it's not so fake and misguided as we've thought for so long. He's trying to cover his tracks and protect his son and himself from the repercussions of accidents he played a part in creating. First the car crash, then his daughter being pushed to her death off the rooftop he built. Such guilt would drive any man insane. It's no wonder why the neighbor is so insistent on getting you to leave and then going to all the trouble of walling you in after you've seen too much. If you tell the world what you saw, our neighbor will lose the only family he has left. He'll lose the only sanity he has left. Sure, his son already escaped the basement, but if anyone else finds out the whole story, that's it for his family. And there lies the answer to this mystery house's creation. It's a broken floor plan designed by a broken mind. It's meant to keep you out so you don't learn the truth, then keep you in once you've learned too much. Indeed, towards the end of Act 2, you escape, and the neighbor doesn't run after you with hate behind his eyes, but rather he lets you go with a concerned, suspicious look on his face. He doesn't hate you, he's just worried about what you might tell the world. The neighbor isn't a properly mustached Joseph Stalin. He's a loving father who knows not how to deal with the tragedies he's caused. That's the motive behind the neighbor, his tragic secret we've been dying to know for so long. We understand now what tore his family apart, what tore his mind apart. But what of the surreal Dr. Seuss house in Act 3? What of the shadowman that haunts it? And us? Unfortunately, I can only answer so much in this episode. The answers to those questions will give new meaning to what we've uncovered today. They'll tie together a story where nightmares and waking reality meet, where demons haunt us as an adult just as they did when we were a child. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. The darkness is approaching. Can you contain it? Find out next week in the story You never knew.